discussing all of the big topics today, and I'm so pleased he's here today. It's Philip Ingram, MBE, former Senior Military Intelligence Officer. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
We have so much to get through.
Things happening in the world?
Things happening. I
thought it was boring.
And honestly, the amount of times I moan about it, it's too much news, there's too much, I mean, and a lot of it is really very miserable. On the face of it, the immigration statistics look good. I mean, it's all relative, people. It's all relative. They look good. And like Keir Starmer and Vet Cooper, the Home Secretary, are going to be also like, look, the figures have halved. Sod all to do with any Labour policy. This is stuff that the figures went up under the Tories and they were brought down. Rishi Sunak instigated a bunch of changes in terms of the number of dependents who could arrive, number of visas that were handed out, study and work, and also we did have that post-lockdown boom. No one could travel for study, so we suddenly have had a load more people arrive in the last few years. But we've also just had a bunch of people who have left because they were studying for a few years, and now they, amazingly, some of them go home. Probably the ones we don't want to go home, ironically. But those stats showing, I mean, again, huge numbers of people. I mean, you know, 431,000 more people came to the country last year than left the country. What do you make of that?
Well, where do you start?
That sigh, according to an employment tribunal, will get you a sacking.
Exactly,
and an
but
HR.
we're talking about that later. Yes. But you know, where do you start? I don't really have a problem with the legal migration, because that's government policy that sets that. And the reason why it's coming down is, you're right, previous government policy is starting to flow through, but also, you know, Keir Starmer has started to remove people who have overstayed their visa welcome. And
we're like about sort of like 10, 15,000. I mean,
those are the ones that are going out, but that's heading in the right direction. The thing that really gets me is we wrap up the illegal migration into the same numbers, and those numbers are growing, and those are where the threats are. Those are where we're seeing, you know, individuals that are getting involved in and recruited for espionage and for other activities.
Before we were on air, you told me that, and again, this. I mean, I think more people are more concerned about illegal migration, absolutely. And we've got a new research from a leading data scientist. Yeah. One of those people, much better than that Ferguson fellow who's predicting how many, you know, basically half the population would die of COVID if we didn't lock down. A load of abject nonsense. Neil Ferguson was wrong about everything. He was too busy shagging his mistress to actually pay attention to what is the actual stats. And I still blame him and Boris Johnson on that. But this guy actually knows his stuff. He's a data scientist called Dr. Richard Wood, and he's predicted that if the weather stays good, you know, mild, we are looking at basically hitting the same record as we got back in 2022 of over 45,000 new arrivals on the boats. He's predicting up to 50,000 though. I mean, we could have a record number. This is after Rishi Sunak stopped the boats, and Keir Starmer smashed the gangs. So that's weird, eh?
Well, exactly.
But the numbers you're talking about are very significant.
They're very significant. I'm putting them into military terms, and we have to remember that the majority of the people that are coming across are military-age young men. Yeah. So, since records started in 2018, when the first 299 came across, there have been over 160, nearly 165,000. That's as at today, have come across. The British Army is only 75,000 strong in its regular force. This is over twice the size of the whole of the British Army of fighting age men that are in this country. Since January this year, in Army terms, an Infantry BRIGADE has come across. That's a big fighting unit. In the whole of this year, and the whole of last year, and the whole of the year beforehand, infantry-type divisions in size has come across. This is huge. The risk that there is, the threat that is underlining this. You know, if I was a hostile state with a long-term plan, I would be doing this and have a way of just getting people to then come together. And I'm not saying that there's any plan there. There's no indication. There's no intelligence to suggest this is happening.
And you keep up with your intelligence bodies.
But it is something that is extremely concerning. We don't have enough soldiers to deal with the individuals that have come across, never mind police and all the rest of it.
I mean, it is terrifying. And again, these are so desperate. These are, young, fit men. They're largely not women and children. They're not. And by the way, the women and children are treated. One of the reasons why a lot of the women, by the way, are pregnant when they come across. You think, well, how on earth are you doing it the other way? They're pregnant because they get raped.
Yes.
Because that's part of the like the cost of doing business. They say this is such a heinous industry.
It's the price for getting on the boats.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing yesterday as the Dunkirk Little Ships Flotilla was forced to change its course in the channel to avoid a migrant boat. I saw you bristling then as an ex-military man. Well, talk to us about how significant and how humiliating this is.
It's hugely significant. It's celebrating, commemorating one of the most fantastical things that was the first action of Winston Churchill when he came in. But I sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek turned around and suggested yesterday that to properly celebrate it and commemorate it, what we should have done is taken all of the illegal migrants that are going on, put them in the little boats and taken them back to Dunkirk.
Absolutely.
And drop them off. Just do it in reverse.
It wasn't just a military exercise. In fact, it involved ordinary civilians.
It was ordinary civilians.
What was so incredible about it.
The incredible thing about it was it brought communities together, brought society together, and it woke the country up from the phony war to the realities of war. And we saved so many of our soldiers, which allowed us to build up a military capability to then go in 1945.
And again, would we be up to any of that at all now? I completely wonder. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, these stats today, I mean, I think the British public have grown weary. They have really grown weary of all this, but they're also very, very angry. And I think the political classes, and it's Labour, Tory, Lib Dem. I mean, the Lib Dems literally like, come on in, the water's lovely to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Labour is what they say one thing, but they don't really mean it. They really do want open borders, a lot of them. They really don't believe that there's a nation state or any idea of you being a British citizen is different to not being a citizen. But I mean, certainly, the Tories pay lip service to it. But again, didn't actually do anything about it. Again, this is why Reform UK are riding high in the polls, currently at 29%. This is very, very simple. We go, because people are far right. We've been told, yes, they're far right and heinous. No, it's because people are fed up with the idea that when we say what we want, you ask us what you want, you say what you want, you say you're going to do it, and then you don't do it year after year after year. But those stats, the halving of those stats, shows that they have the power to do it, but they don't, and they choose not to because they don't actually think that mass uncontrolled immigration legal is actually really a problem.
But lies, damn lies and statistics. As soon as the government minister comes out and says, we're doing so well because our statistics, you know they're lying. Well, as soon as they're talking, you know they're lying. This is part of the problem that there is. So the public have lost confidence, and what the public are saying are and everything comes back from not the legal migration to they're saying the boats coming across. That's what's hitting the pictures. That's what's hitting the social media comment. That's what people are seeing in the hotels in their towns and cities and everything else that are taking things up. And people see that growing and increasing, and the impact it has on getting hospital appointments, GP appointments, on freebies being given out for individuals, and we see tax rising. The mainstream politicians are not waking up and smelling the coffee.
No, absolutely. They really, really aren't. They really still don't get it. They also not waking up and smelling the coffee when it comes to crime. People want crime dealt with.
Yes.
We're constantly told we've got too many people behind bars. No, what we have is not enough prison places. The solution is apparently that we let people out early. We've already seen thousands of people, including domestic abusers, people who've committed serious violent offences, being let out early. It happened last autumn. It's happened again recently. The Prime Minister decided to commission David Gauke, who's a former Tory Justice Secretary, who kind of, again, it's not his fault. He wasn't given the money to build the prisons, but oversaw the prisons mess. He's gone a sentencing review, and basically they're looking at most prisoners serving just a third of their sentence behind bars. Basically, if it's under a year, not getting a prison sentence at all. Suspended sentence up to 3 years. You're getting a 3-year sentence. That's a serious crime you've committed, and yet, we're constantly told this is terrible. Again, by the way, Lucy Connolly's still behind bars. A mum of a young child who didn't actually commit any violence, for something she wrote online that was up for 3.5 hours, and she is still behind bars. It's madness. But front page of The Sun, they were the only paper given a preview of this, former preview, saying that paedophiles and other sex criminals, well, they say will be, it could be, let's be honest, could be castrated, chemically castrated, given drugs to lower their libido, lower their sexual urges, is part of this crackdown to sort of lower their urges. This is something that Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, is looking at. It is in place in other countries. It is used in Germany and other countries. Do you think realistically any of this will ever happen? Because I've got a funny feeling the human rights lawyers are going to get involved very quickly.
I don't think it will happen. And if you chemically castrate a paedophile, you should still not let them out of prison, because you can't be certain that they're going to be safe. And therefore, there's no reason for that. You know, the Tories let us down by increasing the sentences for serious criminals and increasing sentences across the board, and not building more prisons. Now, the Gawk plan is looking at lessons from different countries around the world, and Texas has got a big scheme where if prisoners behave and they continuously behave and they prove that they're good individuals and that they're contributing to prison life and can contribute to society, they can get released early, at only a third of their sentence, working through it. It seems as if he's adapting that, but there's a lot of caveats in it. And if it's a blanket third, then it's wrong. If it's based on behaviour and rehabilitation and a lack of threat to society again, then get people out. We shouldn't have people in prison for doing things like, no matter how heinous it is, tweeting. Whenever we're letting paedophiles and people who are abusing their partners out on the streets. Violent criminals should be kept in prison, and we have other mechanisms of looking after those that have not committed violent
crime. Talking of violent crimes, waking up this morning to the horrific news of 2 Israeli embassy staff in the US shot dead in Washington, D.C. by a pro-Palestinian gunman. We know he's a pro-Palestinian gunman. He was outside a Jewish museum at an event for Jewish people. He shouted "Free, free Palestine" after he shot dead. And this is a young couple who apparently were about to get engaged. He'd already bought the ring, was going to take her back to Israel to propose formally. This is Yaron Lisinski has been named, and Sarah Milgram. Absolute tragedy. These young people have lost their lives. But this is what globalised the Intifada means. When the BBC and other media spout the lies about, like, in 48 hours, 14,000, following a UN claim, by the way, that 14,000 babies are going to die in the next 48 hours, simply not at all what the claim were from the actual evidence was. When they accuse Israel of genocide, of being baby killers, they repeat what are effectively, blood libels, long-standing anti-Semitic blood libels from medieval times through to the 1930s under Hitler. When they do that, it is not a surprise. It is not a surprise that people then think that, Israelis, Jews, bad. And again, the conflation of anything to do with Israel, with Jews, plays out on the streets of not just, we've seen anti-Semitism in our country on a grand scale. Those fortnightly marches, they are just anti-Semitic marches now. That's what they are. And now 2 young people shot dead in the prime of their lives in DC. This is what happens. It's
exactly what happens. Everyone who goes out and shouts for terror organisations who are accusing Israel of genocide, who are globalising the Intifada and calling for that, have got blood in their hands. And the unfortunate thing is, I'm pretty certain this is just the beginning, and there's likely to be more. And that's the really shocking thing. If you look at the stats in the US where this happened, a lot of the anti-Zionist rhetoric is coming out of the US far left. And in the last 12 months, the amount of incidents have grown by 325%. That's significant. This is going to hit us, in this country, and it's going to hit across the world. And people who are spouting anti-Israeli rhetoric need to wake up and recognise that they're the ones that are responsible for this.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There's so much big news to talk about.